A night of champagne and confusion, Jasmine Brooks tugged at the hem of her borrowed dress, feeling every bit the imposter she was. The grand ballroom of the Riverside Hotel sparkled with crystal chandeliers and the laughter of people who belonged here. She definitely did not. 2 months into her job as a marketing coordinator at Ashford Enterprises, and somehow she'd ended up on the guest list for the biggest corporate event of the year. Act confident, she whispered to herself, gripping a glass of orange juice like it was expensive champagne. Pretend you know what you're doing. Smile and nod. The room buzzed with anticipation. Tonight, the company's new CEO would make his first public appearance. Jasmine had heard whispers about him all week. Young, brilliant, ruthless in business, but mysterious in person. Nobody in her department had actually met him yet. A man walked past her, moving through the crowd with quiet purpose. Black tuxedo, perfect posture, strong jawline. His dark hair was styled immaculately, and he carried himself with an easy grace that somehow made everyone else look like they were trying too hard. "Waiter," Jasmine called out, her voice carrying more confidence than she felt. The man stopped mid-stride. He turned slowly, his gray eyes finding hers with an intensity that made her breath catch. For several long seconds, he simply stared at her, as if trying to understand what language she was speaking. "Could you bring me a glass of champagne, please?" Jasmine added, flashing her most charming smile. His eyebrow lifted slightly. The corner of his mouth twitched. "Champagne," he repeated, his voice deep and smooth. "Yes, and make sure it's cold." She winked at him. "I can tell you're new at this, but you'll get the hang of it." Something flickered in his eyes. Surprise, definitely. Amusement, possibly. He seemed to be fighting between laughing and correcting her. "Right away," he said finally, his tone carefully neutral. He walked toward the bar with measured steps. Jasmine watched him go, admiring the way he moved. Confident for a waiter, she thought. 2 minutes later, he returned with a flute of golden champagne. Holding it out to her with exaggerated formality, "Your champagne?" "Miss," he said, his eyes locked on hers. "Thank you." Jasmine took the glass, then looked him up and down appreciatively. "You know, you're pretty smooth for someone carrying trays. If the whole server thing doesn't work out, I know a 5-star restaurant downtown that's always hiring. Want me to put in a good word?" His lips pressed together, clearly suppressing a smile. "That's very thoughtful of you. I'm serious." "You've got the look." She gestured at him with her glass. "Tall, handsome, good presence. Though you do have this expression like you're silently judging everyone in the room." "I'm not judging," he said carefully. "Just observing." "Observing what?" "That you're the first person tonight who's given me a direct order." Jasmine laughed. "Well, someone needs to keep you on your toes. Here's another one. Stand right there and try smiling. It'll suit you." This time he did laugh, a low sound that seemed to surprise even him. "You're new here. How'd you guess? The cheap dress or the obvious discomfort?" "Neither. You're too honest. Everyone else here is performing." He studied her face, his gaze thoughtful. "It's refreshing. Refreshing enough to remember my name." She extended her hand. Jasmine Brooks took her hand, his grip warm and firm. "Jasmine," he repeated, as if committing it to memory. "I'll remember, and you are." Before he could answer, the lights began to dim. The background music faded. A voice crackled through the microphone at the front of the room. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us tonight. It's my great honor to introduce the new CEO of Ashford Enterprises. Please welcome Dylan Ashford." Applause erupted. Camera flashes lit up the room like lightning. Everyone turned toward the stage. Phones raised to capture the moment. Everyone except Jasmine, whose champagne glass had frozen halfway to her lips. Her eyes widened. Her breath caught in her throat. The room seemed to tilt sideways as the man she'd just called pretty smooth for someone carrying trays walked up to the stage with the easy confidence of someone who owned it because he did. He owned the company. Dylan Ashford, the new CEO, stood at the microphone in his immaculate tuxedo. The same man who'd fetched her champagne, The same man she'd offered to recommend for a restaurant job. He scanned the crowd, and his eyes found hers immediately. That same knowing look from before, except now it was accompanied by a slow, deliberate smile. Not a friendly smile. I know exactly what you're thinking smile. Jasmine choked on her champagne. She coughed violently, trying to make it look like she was just moved by emotion. Several people turned to stare. A kind woman offered her water. Jasmine waved her off, her face burning with mortification. Perfect, she muttered under her breath. Just perfect, Jasmine. You just told the CEO to smile more and offered him a job at a restaurant. Congratulations on your incredibly short career. She couldn't hear a word of his speech. His voice was steady and commanding, something about bold vision and strategic growth and team collaboration. But all Jasmine could hear was her own internal panic screaming. When his speech ended, the applause was thunderous. Dylan stepped down from the stage, immediately surrounded by executives and board members wanting to congratulate him. Jasmine saw her chance. She turned and speed-walked toward the exit, weaving through clusters of people. Her only thought to escape before he could find her. Jasmine. She froze. The voice belonged to Rachel Kim, her friend from Human Resources. Rachel grabbed her arm, her eyes sparkling with excitement. Did you see him? The new CEO. Rachel fanned herself with her program. That man is gorgeous. Sophisticated, powerful, and did you see the way he commanded that room? If I'd known our CEO was going to look like that, I would have worn better makeup. Yeah, he's something, Jasmine managed weakly. Are you okay? You look pale. Just need some air. The champagne was stronger than I thought. Rachel nodded sympathetically. Go get some fresh air. Text me later. Jasmine practically ran to the hotel lobby, her heels clicking against the marble floor. She leaned against a column, closing her eyes and taking deep breaths. Maybe Dylan hadn't recognized her. Maybe he met hundreds of people every day and simply didn't remember faces. Maybe she could slip back into her marketing cubicle on Monday and pretend none of this ever happened. Her phone buzzed. A message from the executive assistant's office? Meeting tomorrow, 10 a.m. Marketing team. Mandatory attendance. CEO will be present. Jasmine pressed the lock button, her stomach sinking. She didn't want to think about tomorrow. She wanted to rewind to half an hour ago and simply not talk to anyone who looked important. The morning. After the office felt different on Monday morning. The fluorescent lights seemed harsher. The air conditioning hummed louder. Jasmine arrived 30 minutes early. Her third outfit choice of the morning finally winning out. A navy blazer, white blouse, and pencil skirt. Professional. Forgettable. Exactly what she needed to be. By night, she'd reorganized her desk twice and checked her reflection 4 times. Her dark hair was pulled into a neat bun. Minimal makeup. Her goal was to blend into the furniture. At 9:50, she grabbed her notebook and headed to the conference room. 20 people were already there, filling seats around the long table. She chose a chair near the back corner, as far from the head of the table as possible. At exactly 10 o'clock, the door opened. Dylan Ashford walked in wearing a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her car. His presence filled the room immediately, commanding attention without demanding it. His eyes swept the space, landing briefly on several team members before finding Jasmine in her corner. Their eyes met. He didn't smile, but something shifted in his expression. Recognition. Acknowledgement. A silent conversation that said, I see you trying to hide back there. Good morning, Dylan began, his voice carrying easily across the room. I wanted to meet with each department personally over the next few weeks. Marketing is crucial to our next phase of growth. So I thought we'd start here. He moved around the table, asking questions about current campaigns, listening carefully to each answer, making notes on a tablet. He was thorough, intelligent, and surprisingly approachable. Nothing like the cold corporate titan Jasmine had imagined. When he reached the marketing director, he paused. I've been reviewing the internal communication strategy. We need stronger messaging, more authentic voice. Less corporate speak, more human connection. Several people nodded. Jasmine found herself agreeing silently. Then Dylan's eyes found hers again. Actually, I'd like to speak with Jasmine Brooks personally after this meeting. The room went silent. 20 pairs of eyes turned to stare at her. Jasmine felt her face grow hot. Of course, Mr. Ashford, the marketing director, answered for her, his voice too eager. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. When it ended, everyone filed out, shooting Jasmine curious glances. She gathered her things slowly, trying to calm her racing heart. Dylan waited by the door until the room cleared, then closed it softly. He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. "You always this good at making memorable first impressions?" he asked. Jasmine opened her mouth, then closed it. Where did she even start? "Mr. Ashford, I am so incredibly sorry about Friday night. I genuinely thought you were part of the catering staff, and I should never have spoken to you that way. And if you want to fire me, I completely understand." He held up a hand, stopping her mid-ramble. "Relax. I'm not going to fire you. You're not. No." He leaned against the table, crossing his arms. "Actually, I found the whole thing refreshing. Do you know how long it's been since someone spoke to me like I was just another person? Not the CEO, not the Ashford heir, just someone who could fetch a drink?" Jasmine blinked. "So you're not angry?" "Not even slightly." His gray eyes studied her. "You were direct, honest, and confident. You didn't try to impress me or flatter me. You treated me like an equal. I treated you like a waiter. Same principle." He smiled slightly. "Which brings me to why I wanted to talk to you. I need someone on my executive team who sees things differently. Someone who asks questions, speaks their mind, isn't afraid to make mistakes." Jasmine's heart began to pound for an entirely different reason. "What are you saying?" "I'm offering you a position as my executive assistant. Temporary trial, 3 weeks. If it works, you stay. If not, you return to marketing. No hard feelings." She stared at him. "You're serious? Completely? You'd think I'd make this offer just because you brought me champagne?" A nervous laugh escaped her. "How long are you going to hold that over my head?" "Probably the entire length of your contract." He stood and extended his hand. "What do you say?" Jasmine looked at his hand, then at his face, then at the door. Part of her wanted to run. This was too much, too fast, too impossible. But another part of her, the part that had walked into that gala with borrowed confidence, whispered, "Why not?" She shook his hand. "I accept." His grip was firm and warm. "Welcome to the executive floor, Jasmine Brooks. Try not to offer me any more career advice. No promises, Mr. Ashford." For the first time, his smile reached his eyes. "I wouldn't expect anything less." Whispers in the hallways. Jasmine's first day on the executive floor felt like walking through a minefield blindfolded. The 17th floor was a different world from her old marketing cubicle. Here, the carpets were plush, the walls were decorated with original artwork, and everyone spoke in hushed, important tones. The assistant's office next to Dylan's was spacious, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city and a desk that looked like it belonged in a design magazine. Monica Wells, Dylan's outgoing executive assistant, spent the morning training her. Monica was in her 50s, efficient, and surprisingly kind. "He's demanding but fair," Monica explained, pulling up calendar systems on the computer. "He doesn't tolerate excuses, but he respects honesty. If you make a mistake, tell him immediately. He hates surprises." Jasmine took notes frantically. "What about his schedule? How does he like things organized? Color-coded by priority? Red for board meetings, blue for department heads, green for external partners. He drinks black coffee at 6 a.m., green tea at 2 p.m. He skips lunch when he's stressed, so keep protein bars in the drawer. And never ever schedule anything before his 7 a.m. gym session." By noon, Jasmine's head was spinning with information. Monica left her with 3 binders of protocols and a reassuring pat on the shoulder. "You'll be fine. He chose you for a reason." But by Tuesday afternoon, Jasmine wasn't so sure. The whispers had started. She first noticed it in the break room. 2 women from accounting stopped talking when she walked in. Their smiles were tight, their eyes assessing. When she left, she heard one of them whisper, 2 months in the company and already on the executive floor? That's quite a climb. The second time was worse. She was reviewing files in the copy room when Trevor Banks walked in. Trevor was a senior manager in operations, mid-40s, with a condescending smile and eyes that never quite met yours. Well. Little Jasmine Brooks. He leaned against the copier, blocking her exit. Executive assistant to the CEO? That's impressive. It's doing my job, Trevor. I'm sure you are. His tone suggested something else entirely. You know, the rest of us had to work for years to get close to the executive suite. But I guess some people have other talents. Jasmine's jaw tightened. If you have something to say it directly. I'm just observing. Like how our new CEO seems very interested in pretty young employees who flatter him at parties. Heat rushed to her face. That's completely inappropriate, is it? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you found a shortcut. He pushed off the copier and walked past her, deliberately bumping her shoulder. Enjoy it while it lasts. Jasmine stood frozen, her hands shaking. She wanted to scream to defend herself, but the words stuck in her throat. What could she say? That Dylan had offered her the job because she'd mistaken him for a waiter? That would only make things worse. By Wednesday, the rumors had spread everywhere. She felt eyes on her constantly. Conversations stopped when she approached. People who'd been friendly before now gave her cold nods. Rachel found her hiding in the bathroom during lunch, crying quietly in a stall. Jasmine? I know you're in there. Jasmine wiped her eyes and emerged. I'm fine. You're not fine. I've heard the gossip. Rachel handed her tissues. Trevor's been spreading poison all over the building. What's he saying? That you slept your way to the top. That Dylan's playing favorites. That you're unqualified and only got the job because of your looks. Jasmine's stomach twisted. None of that's true. I know that. Anyone with a brain knows that. But Trevor's jealous. He applied for a director position last year and got rejected. He's been bitter ever since. What do? Rachel squeezed her hand. You prove them all wrong. You show everyone that you earned this position, and you hold your head high. That afternoon, Dylan called her into his office for a strategy session. He was reviewing quarterly reports, his sleeves rolled up, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up when she entered, closed the door. We need to talk about the marketing restructure proposal. Jasmine sat across from him, pulling out her tablet, but her hands were shaking slightly. Dylan noticed immediately. What's wrong? Nothing. I'm ready to discuss the proposal. He set down his pen. Jasmine. She looked up. His gray eyes were sharp, seeing too much. People are talking, she said quietly, about why you hired me. About us. His expression hardened. What are they saying? It doesn't matter. It matters to me. She took a deep breath. They think I got this job because we have some kind of inappropriate relationship. They think I'm unqualified. Trevor Banks has been especially vocal about it. Dylan's jaw clenched. She watched his fingers drum once on the desk, the only sign of his anger. Trevor Banks is a mediocre manager with an inflated ego. He's been passed over for promotion twice because he lacks vision and leadership skills. But he's not wrong about one thing. I am new. I haven't earned this the traditional way. You earned it by being direct, creative, and unafraid to speak your mind. Those are rare qualities. He leaned forward. But if this is too much pressure, if you want to return to marketing, I'll understand. Something in his steady gaze strengthened her. No. I'm not running away because people are small-minded. I'm going to prove I belong here. A slight smile crossed his face. Good, because Friday you're presenting the new internal branding strategy to the board of directors. Her eyes widened. What? You've been reviewing the reports all week? I've seen your notes. They're excellent. Sharp analysis, creative solutions. I want you to present them. Dylan, I can't present to the board. I've been in this position for 3 days. Then you'll learn fast. He handed her a folder. This is your chance to show everyone exactly who Jasmine Brooks is. Not the girl who mistook me for a waiter. Not someone who doesn't belong. but a professional who deserves to be here. Proving ground Friday morning arrived too quickly. Jasmine had stayed up until 3 a.m. preparing her presentation, practicing in front of her mirror, anticipating every possible question. She chose her outfit carefully, a burgundy dress with a structured blazer. Professional, but not trying too hard. Confident, but not arrogant. The boardroom was intimidating. 20 executives sat around a massive mahogany table. Trevor Banks was there, his expression smug. Several board members she didn't recognize. And at the head of the table, Dylan, his face carefully neutral. "Ladies and gentlemen," Dylan began, "Jasmine Brooks, my executive assistant, will be presenting our new internal branding initiative." Jasmine. She stood, her heart hammering. 20 pairs of eyes turned to her. Several looked skeptical. Trevor looked entertained, like he was waiting for her to fail. Jasmine clicked to her first slide and took a deep breath. "Good morning. For the past 2 months, I've been observing communication patterns across all departments. What I've found is a disconnect between our external brand promise and our internal culture." She clicked through data visualizations, engagement metrics, employee feedback surveys. Her voice grew steadier with each slide. "We tell customers we're innovative and human-centered. But internally, our communication is rigid and impersonal. Employees feel like numbers, not people. That disconnect shows in our retention rates and productivity metrics." One board member leaned forward. "What do you propose?" "A 3-phase initiative. First, restructure internal newsletters to feature real employee stories, not corporate announcements. Second, create cross-department collaboration spaces where people can connect organically. Third, implement a recognition program that celebrates innovation at every level, not just executive decisions." She walked them through implementation timelines, budget projections, expected ROI. She anticipated questions about resources and answered them before they were asked. She addressed concerns about scalability with data from similar companies. When she finished, the room was silent. Then one board member started clapping. Another joined. Soon, the entire room was applauding. "Exceptional work, Miss Brooks," the board chair said. "This is exactly the kind of forward thinking we need." Even Trevor looked stunned, his smug expression replaced with something closer to respect. After the meeting, several executives approached her with compliments and questions. The operations director asked for her contact information to discuss potential collaboration. The CFO praised her budget analysis. Dylan waited until everyone had left. He stood by the window, looking out at the city. "You were brilliant," he said quietly. Jasmine walked over to stand beside him. "I was terrified." "I know. That's what made it brave." He turned to face her. "You just showed an entire room of executives that you earned your place here." Trevor included. Did you see his face? Despite her exhaustion, she laughed. "Did." It was deeply satisfying. Dylan's expression grew serious. "They won't stop talking, Jasmine. People like Trevor never do. But now when they gossip, at least some people will remember this presentation and wonder if they're wrong. Some people isn't everyone." "No, but it's a start." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The city spread out below them, tiny cars and people living their lives. Jasmine realized how far she'd come in just 1 week. From borrowed dress at a gala to presenting strategy to the board. "Thank you," she said softly, "for believing I could do this. I didn't give you this opportunity out of charity, Jasmine. I gave it to you because I saw potential. You just proved me right." When she looked at him, his eyes held something more than professional respect. Something warmer, more personal. It made her pulse quicken in a way that had nothing to do with board presentations. "Should go prepare next week's schedule," she said, suddenly needing distance. "Jasmine." She stopped at the door. "For what it's worth, I don't care what people think about why I hired you. I know the truth. You know the truth. That's all that matters." She nodded and left before he could see the emotion in her eyes. Storm warnings the following week passed in a blur of meetings, strategy sessions, and late nights. Dylan's schedule was relentless, and Jasmine quickly learned to anticipate his needs before he asked. She memorized his preferences, his patterns, the subtle shifts in his mood that signaled when to push and when to give space. They developed an easy rhythm. Morning briefings over coffee where he'd outline priorities while she took rapid notes. Afternoon check-ins where she'd update him on developments. Late evening reviews where they'd debrief the day's challenges. But beneath the professional efficiency, something else was growing. Small moments that lasted too long. Accidental touches that sent electricity through her skin. Conversations that drifted from business into personal territory. Like the Wednesday afternoon when she found him staring at old photos on his desk. "Your parents?" she asked softly. He nodded. "They died in a car accident when I was 19. One day I was a college student. The next, I was running a company. I'm so sorry, Dylan. I spent years trying to prove I could fill their shoes, trying to be the man everyone expected." He looked up at her. "Sometimes I built so many walls to protect myself that I forgot what it felt like to just be human." Jasmine sat on the edge of his desk. A casual gesture that would have been inappropriate a week ago, but now felt natural. "My dad left when I was 8. Mom raised me alone while managing diabetes and working 2 jobs. I spent my whole life watching her sacrifice everything. I promised myself I'd make something of myself. Make her proud. She'd be proud of you now. I hope so. Some days I still feel like that girl in the borrowed dress, pretending to belong." Dylan stood, moving closer. "You belong here, Jasmine. Not because I say so, because you've earned it every single day." They were standing very close now. His eyes dropped to her lips, then back up. The air between them felt charged, dangerous. Jasmine's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. A reminder about his 4 o'clock conference call. "You have a meeting," she said, her voice barely steady. "Right, the meeting." But he didn't move. Neither did she. Finally, Dylan stepped back, running a hand through his hair. "We should maintain professional boundaries." "Yes, absolutely. Professional." There. But as she left his office, her heart was racing. And she knew that whatever they were trying to maintain was already slipping away. Thursday brought a crisis. A major client threatened to pull their contract over a shipping delay. Dylan spent all day in emergency meetings while Jasmine coordinated between departments, gathered information, and drafted response strategies. By 8 p.m., they were alone in his office. Reviewing the solution plan, "This could work," Dylan said, reading her proposal. "If we can guarantee expedited shipping and offer a discount on the next quarter, they might stay. I already contacted our logistics partner. They can prioritize the shipment for a rush fee. I worked out the numbers. We'd take a small hit on profit margin, but keep the relationship." He looked up at her, impressed. "When did you do all this?" "During your meetings. I figured you'd need options, not just problems." "You're remarkable, you know that." Before she could respond, the window lit up with a flash of lightning. Thunder rumbled, so loud the glass shook. Rain began pounding against the building. Torrential downpour that turned the streets below into rivers. Jasmine walked to the window. That came out of nowhere. Dylan joined her, both watching the storm transform the city. "We should wait it out. Driving in this would be dangerous." They ordered food from the building's restaurant. While waiting, they talked about everything except work. Childhood memories, favorite books, dreams they'd given up, and dreams they still held. "I wanted to be a writer when I was young," Jasmine admitted. "I'd fill notebooks with stories about adventures and magic." "Why'd you stop?" "Life, bills, practicality. Writing doesn't pay the rent." "Maybe not, but it feeds something else." She looked at him. "What did you want to be? Before the company, before CEO, before all this?" Dylan was quiet for a long moment. "Free. I wanted to be free to choose my own path. But when my parents died, the choice was made for me."
"Oh, do you resent it?"
"Sometimes. But then I meet people like you who remind me why building something meaningful matters." The food arrived. They sat on the floor of his office, eating takeout straight from the containers, laughing about terrible movies and embarrassing moments. The storm raged outside, but inside they'd created a pocket of warmth and connection. At some point, Jasmine shivered. The air conditioning had kicked in, and her blazer wasn't warm enough. Dylan stood and retrieved his suit jacket from the chair. Here, I'm fine. You're shivering. He draped it over her shoulders, his hands lingering for a moment. She pulled the jacket closer, breathing in the scent of his cologne. Thank you. Sat back down, closer this time. Their knees almost touched. Jasmine, I need to tell you something. Her heart began to pound. Okay, that night at the gala, when you called me over thinking I was a waiter, I was having the worst day. I was tired, overwhelmed, questioning everything. And then you appeared with your confidence and your terrible jokes and your complete lack of fear. He smiled. You made me laugh. Really laugh. For the first time in months, I called you pretty smooth for carrying trays. Best compliment I've ever received. His expression grew serious. But what I'm trying to say is that you changed something in me that night. And every day since, you've continued to change me. You make me want to be more than just the CEO. You make me want to be myself. Jasmine couldn't breathe. Dylan, we work together. This can't, I know. I know all the reasons why this is complicated. But I can't keep pretending that what I feel is purely professional. He reached up, his fingers gentle as they brushed a strand of hair from her face. His hand cupped her cheek, his thumb tracing her jawline. Tell me to stop, he whispered. She should. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea. Her job, her reputation, everything she'd worked for was at risk. But her heart whispered something else entirely. I can't, she admitted. Dylan closed the distance between them, his lips meeting hers in a kiss that felt like coming home and jumping off a cliff simultaneously. Gentle at first, then deeper as she responded, her hands sliding into his hair. The storm outside faded. The world narrowed to just this moment, this connection, this feeling of rightness that defied all logic. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing hard, Dylan rested his forehead against hers. Hey, what are we doing? Jasmine whispered. Something terrifying and perfect. She laughed, a sound mixed with joy and fear. This could ruin everything. Or it could be the best decision we ever made. They sat in the quiet of his office, holding each other as the storm slowly passed. Neither spoke about what came next. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges. But tonight, in this moment stolen from the world, they simply chose to be two people who'd found something unexpected and precious. The rain eventually slowed to a drizzle. The city lights flickered back to life. Reality waited just outside the door. But for now, wrapped in his jacket in his arms, Jasmine let herself believe that maybe, just maybe, some rules were meant to be broken. The price of truth Monday morning felt different. Jasmine arrived at the office carrying the weight of what had happened Friday night. The kiss, the confession, the line they'd crossed that couldn't be uncrossed. Dylan was already at his desk when she entered, and their eyes met with the kind of knowing that made her stomach flip. Good morning, he said, his voice carefully professional, but his eyes held warmth that had nothing to do with business. Morning. Your 8:30 with the finance team is ready. I've prepared the quarterly projections you requested. Thank you, Jasmine. They spoke like strangers playing roles. But when she set the files on his desk, their hands brushed, and the electricity between them was undeniable. The pretense lasted until noon. Dylan buzzed her intercom. Can you come in here, please? She found him standing by the window, tension in his shoulders. Closed the door. She did, her pulse quickening. We need to talk about what happened, Dylan said. I haven't been able to think about anything else all weekend. Neither have I. He turned to face her. I don't regret kissing you. But I also don't want to put you in an impossible position. If people find out if Trevor catches wind of this, it'll make everything worse for you. Jasmine crossed her arms, a defensive gesture. So what are you saying? That it was a mistake? No, I'm saying I don't know how to do this right. I'm your boss. There's a power imbalance. No matter how real my feelings are, it looks bad. Dylan, I'm not some naive girl who got swept up in the moment. I kissed you back because I wanted to, because I feel the same way. But you're right. This is complicated. So what do we do? She thought for a moment. We're honest. With ourselves, with each other. We take this slow. We keep it private until we figure out what it even is. He stepped closer. And if people find out before we're ready, then we deal with it together. But I'm not going to hide like I'm ashamed. I'm not going to let Trevor or anyone else make me feel like what I feel for you is wrong. Dylan's expression softened. He reached out, taking her hand. You're braver than I am. No, I'm just tired of letting fear make my decisions. That week, they tried to maintain boundaries. Professional in meetings. Cordial in emails. But the stolen moments between told a different story. A lingering look across the conference room. His hand at the small of her back as he passed. The way her fingers would brush his when handing him coffee. Rachel noticed first. Cornering Jasmine in the break room Wednesday afternoon. Okay, what's going on with you and Dylan? Nothing. We work together. Oh, please. I've seen the way he looks at you. Like you're the only person in the room. And you light up when he walks in. So, spill. Jasmine hesitated, then quietly told her about the kiss, about the confusion, about not knowing what they were doing. Rachel's eyes widened. Jasmine Brooks, you dark horse. You're falling for the CEO. I'm not falling. I'm just aware of gravity. Same thing. Look, I'm happy for you. Dylan's a good man. But be careful. The office isn't kind to office romances, especially when there's a power differential. I know. We're trying to figure it out. We'll figure it fast. Because Trevor's been asking questions. I think he suspects something. That evening, Dylan asked Jasmine to work late on a presentation for an upcoming investor meeting. By 9 p.m., they were alone on the executive floor. The office silent except for the hum of computers. They worked side by side, but the proximity was distracting. Every time she leaned over to point at the screen, she was aware of his nearness. Every time he explained a concept, his voice sent shivers down her spine. Finally, Dylan pushed back from the desk. I can't concentrate with you this close. Should I move to the other side of the office? You should come here, she did, and he pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapping around her waist. She leaned back against his chest, feeling his heart beat against her shoulder blade. This is dangerous, she murmured. I know. I don't care. He kissed her neck softly. I've spent all week pretending I don't want to do this. I'm tired of pretending. She turned in his arms, facing him. Dylan, if we do this, really do this, we have to be smart. We can't give Trevor ammunition, then we'll be discreet. Until we know what this is, until we're ready to face whatever comes, and if it doesn't work, if we try and it falls apart, then at least we tried. At least we didn't spend our lives wondering what if. He cupped her face. I'm willing to risk it if you are. Jasmine kissed him, her answer clear. They stayed late into the night, not working. Just being together in the quiet safety of the empty office. The unraveling Monday brought trouble. Jasmine was reviewing reports when Trevor Banks appeared in her doorway. His expression predatory. Working hard, I see. Or hardly working. She didn't look up. Do you need something, Trevor? Just wondering how you like the executive floor. Nice view up here. Must be nice to skip all those pesky years of experience the rest of us needed. If you have a complaint, take it to HR. He stepped into her office uninvited, closing the door. See, that's interesting. Because I've been thinking about HR, about policies regarding fraternization, about how the company handbook clearly states that romantic relationships between supervisors and subordinates must be disclosed. Jasmine's blood ran cold. I don't know what you're implying, don't you? I've seen the way you look at each other. The late nights. The closed-door meetings. Either you're incredibly dedicated to your job, or something else is going on. That's a serious accusation. One you can't prove, can't I? He smiled coldly. Last Friday night, security footage shows you and Dylan leaving together at 11 p.m. the week before. You were here until midnight. Lots of after-hours collaboration. We were working. I'm sure you were. But optics matter, Jasmine, and it looks inappropriate. If I were to mention my concerns to the board, to suggest an investigation, well, even if nothing's happening, the damage would be done. She stood, anger replacing fear. "What do you want, Trevor?" "I want you to resign. Quietly. Leave the executive floor and go back to wherever you came from. Do that, and I'll keep my observations to myself. Ow. Then I'll make sure everyone knows that you slept your way to the top. True or not, the rumor will stick. You'll never shake it. Every achievement will be questioned. Every success will be attributed to your relationship with Dylan rather than your abilities." Jasmine's hands clenched into fists. "Get out of my office. Think about it. You have until Friday to decide." He opened the door, then paused. "Oh, and Jasmine, Dylan won't protect you. Men like him always choose their reputation over women like you." After he left, Jasmine sat down heavily, her mind racing. She could tell Dylan, but that would force a confrontation. She could resign, but that would mean letting Trevor win. Or she could do nothing and risk everything exploding publicly. That night, she barely slept. By Wednesday, she'd made her decision. She found Dylan in his office during lunch. "We need to talk." He looked up, immediately sensing something wrong. "What happened?" She told him everything. Trevor's threats, the security footage, the ultimatum. As she spoke, Dylan's expression grew darker. When she finished, he stood abruptly. "I'm going to destroy him." "Dylan, no. That'll just confirm everything. Make it worse. He threatened you. Tried to blackmail you. That's grounds for termination. It's my word against his. He'll claim he was just expressing concerns about workplace ethics." She took a deep breath. "There's only one solution. I resign." "Absolutely not. Listen to me. If I leave, his leverage disappears. You stay untouched. I protect my reputation by getting ahead of the story. I'll say I'm pursuing other opportunities. Running away? Strategic retreat." She tried to smile. "Besides, maybe this is a sign. We got caught up in something complicated. Maybe it's better to step back before we make it worse." Dylan crossed to her in 3 strides, his hands framing her face. "I'm not letting you sacrifice yourself because Trevor Banks is a vindictive coward. And I'm not letting you walk away because we're scared. And what do? We tell the truth. We go to HR, disclose the relationship properly, and dare Trevor to do his worst. Yes, there'll be gossip. Yes, it'll be uncomfortable. But we'll face it together honestly. Dylan, your reputation matters less than you do. Don't you understand? I spent years building walls, playing it safe, never letting anyone close enough to matter. Then you showed up and changed everything. I'm not going back to that life." Tears pricked her eyes. "This could cost you, and it cost me. But I won't lose you because I was too afraid to fight for what matters." Finding freedom, they spent Thursday preparing. They met with HR, formally disclosed their relationship, and requested a review to ensure no conflicts of interest. The HR director, a no-nonsense woman named Patricia, listened carefully. "This is complicated," Patricia admitted. "But you've handled it correctly by coming forward. We'll need to restructure reporting lines. Jasmine, you'll report to the coup instead of directly to Dylan. That removes the direct supervisory relationship. Will there be consequences?" Jasmine asked. "Some gossip, certainly. But nothing you've done violates policy, especially now that it's disclosed. As for Mr. Banks, if he makes further threats, that's harassment. We'll address that separately." Friday morning, Dylan called an executive meeting. Trevor was there looking smug. He clearly expected Jasmine to announce her resignation. Instead, Dylan stood at the head of the table. "I want to address some rumors that have been circulating. Jasmine Brooks and I are in a relationship. We've disclosed this to HR, and appropriate reporting structures have been adjusted. This doesn't affect her qualifications or her position. She earned her role through exceptional work, which you all witnessed during her board presentation." The room went silent. Trevor's face turned red. "Furthermore," Dylan continued, his voice sharp, "if anyone has concerns about workplace ethics, there are appropriate channels to address them. Harassment, threats, and blackmail are not among those channels. Those behaviors will be met with immediate consequences." His eyes locked on Trevor. The message was clear. After the meeting, several executives approached Jasmine privately to offer support. To her surprise, most were understanding. Trevor left without a word. By afternoon, HR had received his resignation. Apparently, Patricia's investigation had uncovered several instances of inappropriate conduct over the years. Trevor had chosen to leave rather than face termination. That evening, Jasmine and Dylan stood on the rooftop terrace of the building, watching the sunset paint the city gold and orange. "So we did it," Jasmine said. "Came out of the shadows. Any regrets?" "Only that we let fear control us for so long." She turned to him. "What happens now?" "Now we figure it out as we go. Date like normal people. Deal with complications as they arise. Stop letting other people's opinions dictate our choices. Normal people don't have to disclose their relationships to HR." He laughed. "Fair point. But I'm willing to endure some paperwork if it means I get to be with you." Jasmine leaned against him, his arm wrapping around her shoulders. Below them, the city moved through its evening rhythms. Thousands of people living their lives, facing their own challenges, making their own choices. "You know what's funny?" she said. "That night at the gala, I thought you were just a waiter. Someone passing through my life for 5 minutes. I never imagined you'd become this important. And I never imagined the woman who ordered me around would become the person I couldn't imagine my life without. We're quite a pair." He turned her to face him. "I love you, Jasmine Brooks. I know it's fast and complicated and probably terrifying, but it's true." Her heart soared. "I love you too. Even though you're impossible, still holding that against me? Always." They kissed as the sun dipped below the horizon, the city lights beginning to sparkle like stars brought down to earth. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. There would be more gossip, more judgment, more obstacles to navigate. But standing there, wrapped in each other, they both understood something fundamental. Love wasn't about perfect timing or ideal circumstances. It was about choosing someone despite the complications, about being brave enough to fight for something real. Jasmine had walked into that gala months ago, feeling like an imposter in a borrowed dress. She'd left having unknowingly met the person who would change her life. Sometimes the best things start with mistakes, with moments of confusion that become moments of clarity, with a simple request for champagne that leads to so much more. As they headed back inside, hand in hand, Jasmine smiled. She'd come to Ashford Enterprises looking for a job. She'd found a purpose, a voice, and a love she never saw coming, and it all started because she'd mistaken a millionaire CEO for a waiter. Some mistakes, she realized, are the best kind of fortune. Epilogue. 1 year later, the community center in Eastside hummed with energy. Jasmine stood on a small stage, looking out at 40 young people attending the creative writing workshop she'd founded 6 months ago. Behind her, a banner read, "Brooks Initiative, Finding Your Voice." After everything that happened at Ashford Enterprises, Jasmine had realized her true passion wasn't corporate marketing. It was helping others discover their potential the way Dylan had helped her discover hers. She'd left the company on good terms, launching her nonprofit with a generous grant from Ashford Foundation and her own savings. The program offered free workshops in writing, public speaking, and professional development for underprivileged youth. "Remember," she told the class, "your voice matters. Whether you're writing stories or presenting ideas, own your perspective. Don't let anyone make you feel small." After class, she found Dylan waiting in the back row, holding 2 cups of coffee. "How long have you been here?" she asked. "Long enough to see you inspire 40 kids to believe in themselves. You're magnificent. You know that?" They walked through the neighborhood together, past the places where Jasmine had grown up. So much had changed, yet so much remained the same. Dylan had stepped back from his CEO role, appointing a new leader while he focused on the foundation's work. He spent his days investing in community programs, supporting entrepreneurs, and discovering that impact mattered more than empire. "Do you miss it?" Jasmine asked. "The corner office? The power? All of it?" "Not even a little. Turns out I was working so hard to build something impressive that I forgot to build something meaningful." He took her hand. "You taught me that. I taught you. You showed me what courage looks like. How to choose purpose over prestige. how to be brave enough to walk away from what's comfortable to chase what's right. They stopped at a small park where kids played on swings and families picnicked on the grass. This was the world Jasmine wanted to impact. Not from an executive floor, but from the ground level, person by person, story by story. Dylan reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Jasmine's breath caught. "Dylan, before you panic, hear me out." He smiled nervously, which was endearing on a man usually so confident. "I'm not asking you to marry me, not yet. But I want you to know that I'm committed to this, to us, to building a life together. When the time is right, when we're both ready, I'm going to ask you properly." He opened the box. Inside was a delicate gold necklace with a small pendant shaped like a champagne glass.